What would you do if you stumbled upon a secret so bizarre, so frightening, that no one would ever believe you, not even if you swore on your ancestors? Let's dive into the story of a place both ordinary and extraordinary. In the heart of Lumwe Town, there was a small but well-loved hair salon called Mari's Hair Haven. The walls were painted in joyful shades of green and yellow, and a large wooden sign outside read, "Come in for the crown you were born to wear." Every day, women from nearby streets and even distant villages flocked to Mari's for their hair appointments. It felt like there was no other salon that could compare. People came from miles away, and no one ever left disappointed. Mari, the owner, was known all around for her kindness, laughter, and her magical way with hair. She could take any head of hair and make it look like royalty. But there was one person in her salon who always stood out: Nia, the quiet cleaner. Nia spoke little, had no known friends, and kept to herself like a shadow. She responded only when spoken to and never lingered after work. She came in, cleaned, and left like clockwork. Yet, everyone noticed her, not because of her silence, but because of her hair. Sweet heavens, Nia's hair was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Long, dark, silky strands that shimmered like moonlight on water, and waves that curled perfectly, like they had been styled by spirits. Each week, Nia showed up with a new hairstyle: tight rows, majestic twists, buns so perfect they looked sculpted. And here's the strange part: no one ever saw her get her hair done. Not once. Not even Mari, the legendary stylist, had done it for her. Women constantly asked, "Mari, who does the cleaner's hair? I'll pay anything, just give me that look." And Mari would shrug helplessly. "I've never touched her hair myself. I don't know how she does it." And that was the truth. It puzzled everyone. Where did this quiet girl go? Who styled her in the dead of night? Some customers whispered it must be a secret stylist Nia refused to reveal. Others claimed she was being selfish, keeping beauty all to herself. "If she does it herself, why won't she teach the rest of us?" they muttered. Among them was Zula, Mari's teenage niece, who worked part-time at the salon during her school break. She had once been childhood friends with Nia, but their friendship faded over time. Now Zula burned with envy for the admiration Nia received without even trying. One rainy evening, after everyone had left and thunder rolled across the sky, Zula decided she would uncover the truth no matter what. She hid behind stacked chairs in the back room, heart racing, eyes alert. She watched Nia mop the floors, wipe the mirrors, and tidy up in her usual quiet way. But Nia never touched her hair, not once. Until suddenly, she stopped, glanced around, and picked up a small old mirror from a shelf. She opened the closet door, stepped inside, and closed it behind her. Zula crept closer and peeked through a narrow crack in the wooden door, and what she saw made her blood freeze. Inside the dim room, Nia sat calmly on a stool, held the mirror in her lap, and with an eerie grace, lifted her hands to her head. Then, as if it were the most casual act in the world, she twisted her own head off her neck and set it down on her lap. Her body, still moving, began to braid the hair. Her headless frame worked swiftly, weaving the strands into perfect styles, with a speed no human could match. Meanwhile, her detached head rested quietly, eyes closed, lips humming a low, haunting melody that filled the air like fog. Zula couldn't breathe. She wanted to scream, to run, but her feet were rooted to the floor. Her chest pounded, her eyes wide in terror. The body continued its work, calm and precise, as if this was a ritual done many times before. And then Zula accidentally knocked over a broom leaning near the wall. Clatter! The sound echoed like thunder. Inside the room, Nia's head snapped open its eyes and slowly turned toward the crack in the door. She smiled a slow, chilling smile. "You shouldn't be here," she said in a soft, sweet tone that echoed with something not quite human. Zula stumbled back, terrified. But Nia stood, calmly picking up her head and pressing it back onto her neck with practiced ease. A soft click, she blinked twice, rolled her neck and exhaled. Her hair, styled to perfection. Her face, peaceful as if nothing had happened. She walked slowly toward Zula, who was trembling now, backed against the wall. "No one is meant to know," Nia said, resting a cold hand on Zula's shoulder. "It's a gift passed down in my family. I remove my head only to braid my hair. It's not evil, just quiet." Her voice was gentle, but the chill of her touch ran deep. "Please," Zula whispered, barely able to speak. "Go home," Nia said, releasing her, "and forget what you saw." Zula didn't wait. She ran out the salon into the rain, all the way home. Her clothes soaked, her heart racing. She burst through the door and tried to explain, but her words came out in fragments. Her mother shook her head. "Stop it, child. You're just jealous of that girl's hair." No one believed her. Not a single soul. And the next morning, when Zula returned to Mari's hair haven, Nia was already there, calm, smiling. Her hair, once again, flawless. The next day, Nia arrived at Mari's hair haven as if nothing unusual had happened the night before. Her face carried its usual soft smile, but when she looked at Zula, there was something unspoken in her eyes, a quiet warning, a reminder of what Zula had seen. Zula, still trembling from the memory of the headless braiding ritual, kept her distance. She wanted to scream the truth, to tell everyone, but who would believe her? Who would accept that the quiet girl sweeping the floor each day could detach her head and style her own hair like a spirit? It sounded too mad to be real. Days passed, then weeks, and the fear only grew inside Zula. Each time Nia arrived with a new stunning hairstyle, more intricate than the last, Zula's heart raced with the memory of that night. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Nia's headless body moving gracefully, fingers flying through strands of hair like they had minds of their own. Then, one evening, after the salon had closed and the others had gone, Zula lingered to finish folding towels. Just as she was leaving, Nia appeared behind her, holding out a small, carefully wrapped package. "For you," she said gently. Zula hesitated. "It's a gift," Nia continued with a smile. "A peace offering. I'd like us to be friends again." Zula stood frozen. Nia's voice was soft, even warm. "I'm not evil," she said. "I come from a rare lineage our kind. Can separate our heads from our bodies, yes. But we do not harm anyone. We don't use it for dark things. It's just something we do, in private." Her voice trembled slightly. "Please, Zula, I don't want people to see me as something monstrous. I've lived quietly for a reason." Zula slowly unwrapped the gift. Inside was a beautifully carved wooden comb, inlaid with tiny beads and seashells shaped like blooming flowers. It was delicate and lovely, but in her hand, it felt heavy, almost alive. She looked up at Nia, who simply nodded, her smile serene. "Thank you," Zula whispered, forcing a polite expression, though fear still coiled inside her like a snake. Listeners, what would you do in her place? Could you befriend someone like Nia? That night, Zula placed the comb gently on her dresser. But when she fell asleep, she dreamed of it, not as a gift, but as something else. In her dream, the comb morphed into a serpent of hair, slithering across her scalp, twisting and pulling until she couldn't breathe. She woke up with a gasp, sweat pouring from her skin. The comb was still there, harmless on the surface, but Zula couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching her. She shoved it into a box under her bed, hoping the dreams would end. Later that week, she sat alone, thinking. Maybe Nia wasn't wicked after all. Maybe she had just inherited something beyond her control. So Zula made a decision. She returned to the salon early and approached Nia. "I've been thinking," she began quietly, "about what you said, and I believe you. I want to be your friend again, You said you weren't evil, and I believe that now. You've never hurt anyone, and I get why you've kept it secret. Who would believe you? I barely believe it myself, and I saw it with my own eyes. Nia's eyes filled with relief. Thank you, Zula, she whispered. You don't know what this means to me. This is just how I was born. I've never enjoyed the gift. I've only ever wanted to hide it. That's why I stay quiet. That's why I don't make friends. I didn't want anyone to fear me. It's okay, Zula replied gently. I'll keep your secret. The two smiled, and in that moment, the fear between them softened into trust. From that day forward, Nia and Zula became inseparable. Whispers turned into laughter, glances turned into conversation. And more than that, Nia began to open up. She even offered to teach Mari, the salon owner, her unique hairstyling techniques. Boss, she said one day, would you like to learn how I do my braids? Mari's eyes widened with excitement. Of course. My customers won't stop asking about your styles. With time and care, Nia taught Mari everything, braid after braid, twist after twist. The salon flourished. Mari's reputation as the best stylist in Lumwe Town only grew. Customers traveled from neighboring villages just to get her special mystic style, touch never knowing where those styles truly came from. Nia and Zula continued working side by side, laughing like sisters. Their bond grew stronger, built not on fear but on understanding. And for a long time, everything was good. The story ends here, but not without lessons. Listeners, hear this. Some secrets are not meant to be uncovered. Curiosity can drag you into darkness you're not ready for. Sometimes the mystery is better left alone. Some truths, no matter how strange, should remain undisturbed. But there's another lesson too, one about friendship. True friendship is rooted in trust. It means holding each other's truths, even the ones that seem unreal. It means choosing to protect instead of judge. It means standing beside someone, not just when things make sense, but when they don't. A real friend doesn't just keep your secret, they carry your burden with you. Thank you for listening to this tale from Lumwe Town. My name is Onai, your keeper of strange stories and hidden truths. If this is your first time hearing my tale, don't forget to follow and return. And if you've listened all the way to the end, know this. I see you. I thank you. And I hope to tell you more soon. Abeni lived the life many only dreamed of, married to Teo, a prosperous businessman who wore charm like a tailored suit, surrounded by wealth, status, and the warm laughter of their 6-year-old son. Their grand home in Eiler was the envy of neighbors, filled with all that sparkled and shimmered. Yet under its polished floors and golden curtains, a shadow waited to rise. One afternoon, as Abeni tidied up the living room after Teo's return from another business trip, his leather satchel slipped off the couch and a small packet tumbled out. She picked it up and froze abortion pills and a packet of condoms. Her heart stopped. She hadn't been pregnant since their son's birth, and she certainly hadn't bought those. A storm of thoughts surged through her. Who were they for? Was it Zuri, their house help? Zuri had lived with them for 3 years, young, polite, hardworking, and strikingly beautiful. Abeni had always treated her like a younger sister. But now, suspicion narrowed her eyes. She began watching Zuri like a hawk, noticing every smile, every glance she shared with Teo. She followed her through the house, desperate for a crack in her kindness, a slip that would reveal the betrayal. Yet, nothing. Zuri was flawless, innocent, even joyful. No secrets showed on her face. Abeni felt like she was drowning in questions with no lifeline. If it wasn't Zuri, then who? Broken by doubt, Abeni decided she couldn't live in this torment anymore. One night, after Teo returned home late again, she waited until he drifted into a deep sleep. Quietly, she retrieved a rope from their closet and tied his wrists to the bed. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from the boiling need for truth. She found a small pistol hidden in his drawer, cold and heavy in her grip. Her fingers curled around it as she stood by the bed, breathing hard, tears pouring down her face. Teo blinked awake to the image of his wife, armed and trembling. "Abeni," he said, voice calm but edged with fear. "What are you doing? Put the gun down." Her voice cracked under pressure. "Who's pregnant, Teo? Who were those pills for?" The color drained from his face, and after a heavy sigh, he said, "You want the truth? Then listen closely." He looked straight into her soul and said, "It's Madame Tematope." Abeni gasped. Not Zuri, not a young girl, but Tematope, his godmother? The wealthy, commanding older woman who had always appeared to be a mentor, a business angel, a maternal figure. Abeni staggered back in shock. "She's the reason we have all this," Teo continued. "The house, the cars, the business. She funded it all. She gave me everything, but it wasn't for free." His voice became hollow. "She expected loyalty, obedience, and more. If I left her, she would take it all back." Abeni couldn't believe what she was hearing. "So we've been living a lie," she whispered. "Our whole life, bought and borrowed." Teo looked ashamed. "Yes, without her we have nothing. If you shoot me now, she'll find out and strip you and our son of everything. We'll be out on the street." Abeni's hands shook harder. The pistol slipped from her grip and hit the floor. She collapsed beside the bed, sobbing into her palms. Everything, every corner of the home she had loved was built on betrayal. The man she adored had traded their peace for power, their love for lies. Teo freed himself and sat beside her. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I just wanted to give you both a good life." Abeni couldn't bear to look at him. Her dreams had been cracked open like an egg on stone. Days passed in silence. She couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Her mind swirled with questions. Could she forgive him? Should she stay? Then, one day, she made a decision. Abeni called Madame Tematope and asked for a private meeting. She needed to look the woman who destroyed her marriage in the eye. When they met, Madame Tematope raised her brows but didn't refuse. Abeni stood tall, voice steady. "I know everything," she said. "I'm not here to beg for riches. I'm here to ask for freedom. Let my husband go. Let us build our life with dignity." Madame Tematope studied her. A long silence followed, and then Tematope nodded slowly. "I admire your boldness," she said, "but there's a price." Her voice sharpened. "Teo must surrender it all. The business, the house, the cars, every benefit I ever gave. From now on, you build from scratch," Abeni agreed. Teo did too. He gave up everything, sold the house, closed the company, returned every gift. And then, with shaking hands and empty pockets, he began again. He rented a small shop and launched a modest trade business. It was hard, they struggled. But Abeni stood by his side, this time not just as a wife, but as a partner. She began a small venture of her own, selling fabric, beads, and accessories. From a wooden stall near the market, they moved into a tiny bungalow on the outskirts of Eiler. No fancy cars, no marble floors. But for the first time, the laughter in their home was real. Their son played without fear. Their meals tasted of honest labor. Months turned to years. Teo's business grew slowly. People respected him now, not for his wealth, but for his journey. Abeni became known for her creativity and resilience. The past still lingered like a shadow, but it no longer haunted them. They had rebuilt their life not on someone else's favor, but with their own blood and sweat. And through that, they found peace. The story ends not with a mansion, but with meaning. And the lesson, dear listener, is this: true happiness does not come from luxury or shortcuts. It comes from truth, from courage, from the hard-earned path. Betrayal may tear you down, but what you rebuild from the ashes is always stronger. Never sell your soul for comfort. And when life strips you bare, stand tall. You might just discover how rich you truly are. What would you do if the very people you trusted turned out to be the ones who broke you? In a quiet village tucked deep within the Mbali Hills, a young girl named Namboka lived peacefully with her grandmother, Gogo Nyasha, who raised her with warmth and laughter after her parents died in a tragic car crash. Gogo Nyasha's embrace had been enough to shelter her from grief, but life had more sorrow in store. When Gogo passed away, Namboka, just 15, was sent to live with her aunt Rudo, a stern woman in a distant town. From the moment Namboka stepped into that house, the light in her world began to dim. Aunt Rudo was cold, treating her like a burden, feeding her scraps, working her to the bone, and punishing her with cruel silence or sharp words. Each night, Namboka cried herself to sleep on a thin mat, whispering into the air for her grandmother's spirit to take her away. One night, after being forced to chew dry maize until her gums bled, she passed out from exhaustion. The next morning, cold water was thrown into her face. "Still sleeping, eh? You should be thanking my husband for dragging you in from the cold last night," Aunt Rudo barked. Namboka had grown used to the insults. They stung less now, but her body still burned with fever from the previous night's injury. She got up slowly and whispered a polite, "Good morning, Auntie," but Rudo only folded her arms and sneered. "Come back here, foolish girl," she snapped. Namboka turned, her chest tightening. "Sit. I need to speak to you." Her voice was calm, but something about it made Namboka's stomach twist. "You think I brought you here to eat my food and lie on my floor?" Rudo hissed. "I brought you here to serve a purpose." Namboka's heart began to pound. "What do you mean?" she asked. "You will be your uncle's second wife," Rudo said, her tone flat. "You will give us children, then you can leave." The words hit Namboka like a slap. I'm to marry your husband?" she stammered. "Yes," Rudo nodded. "You're old enough. Girls your age are already married. Either you do this, or I throw you back to the streets." "Where else? Will you go?" Namboka sat in silence, her body frozen, her world unraveling. "I have no children of my own," Rudo continued, "and I've waited long enough. You are the vessel through which I will give Baba Rudo the child he deserves." Namboka wanted to scream. "But I'm only a girl," she whispered. "Children come from God, not from bargains." "You think this is a choice?" Rudo snapped. "You'll do as you're told." That evening, after hours of crying alone, Namboka emerged, her eyes hollow. She approached Aunt Rudo and said, "I agree. I will be his second wife." Her voice trembled, but she spoke clearly. Rudo smiled for the first time. "Good, go bathe. I have something special for you to wear tonight." She handed Namboka a shiny wrapper and beaded blouse. Namboka, confused but desperate for approval, dressed carefully, thinking maybe this was some strange adult ceremony. When Baba Rudo returned home, Rudo greeted him cheerfully. "I've prepared Namboka for you tonight," she said with a knowing smile. Baba Rudo frowned. "What do you mean?" he asked. "She's just a child. Don't you want a child of your own?" Rudo snapped. "I've waited long enough. If you won't do this, I will leave you." Baba Rudo sat down stunned. Her words tore at him. He loved Rudo, but the idea of touching Namboka made his skin crawl. Still he nodded, crushed by guilt and desperation. That night, Namboka served him food. She didn't understand the full weight of what had been planned, but Baba Rudo did. He could barely eat. Every time he looked at her innocent face, shame burned his insides. Later, as he sat in the bedroom, he wept silently. He couldn't do it. He wouldn't, but Rudo's threat echoed in his head like a drumbeat. Meanwhile, Namboka waited outside, unsure what this strange marriage meant. That night, Baba Rudo left the room without touching her, leaving Rudo fuming, but she stayed quiet for now. Days passed. The house grew quieter. Baba Rudo avoided eye contact. Rudo became colder. But Namboka felt something shift inside her. The weight of silence became unbearable. One morning, she walked to the police outpost at the edge of the town, her legs trembling. She asked for the female officer and, through tears, told her everything. The officer listened, her face grave, and promised action. That afternoon, social workers and police officers arrived at the house. Aunt Rudo screamed and shouted, but she was taken away. Baba Rudo surrendered without protest. Namboka was placed in a safe home, where she received care and counseling. For the first time in weeks, she slept peacefully. Her story later inspired laws in the region, protecting girls from forced marriages and domestic exploitation. What's the lesson, dear listeners? It is this: pain often comes disguised as family, and sometimes survival means saying no even when it costs everything. Your silence may protect others, but your truth can protect the next girl. And while some adults may fail, others will fight for you if you speak. Today, Namboka is a voice for the voiceless, reminding us that a child's body is not a sacrifice for someone else's broken dreams. Protect girls, believe their pain, and never let tradition silence what is clearly wrong. She had learned to live with the yelling, with the sting of harsh slaps and the cold silence of neglect. So when Baba Rudo entered the room that night, Namboka assumed it was just another thing she'd eventually endure. But he didn't speak. He didn't even look at her. He sat beside her on the mat, shoulders slumped under a burden too heavy to carry. "Uncle, are you okay?" Namboka asked, her small voice soft and full of genuine concern. It was the same expression her Gogo Nyasha once had when she knew something terrible was coming. Baba Rudo sighed, his heart breaking. "You don't understand any of this, do you?" he murmured. "No," Namboka said, her wide innocent eyes fixed on his. He took her tiny hand in his calloused palm and whispered, "You're a child. Just a child. This is wrong." And in that moment, he knew he couldn't go through with what Auntie Rudo had forced upon him. Rising from the mat, he stormed back to his wife. "I can't do this," he said, voice shaking. "I will not take that child as a second wife. I'm supposed to protect her, not harm her. If you want me to marry someone else, find a woman, not my niece." Rudo's rage erupted. "Useless man!" She shouted. "I'm trying to help you. And this is how you repay me. She's just sitting here, eating our food, doing nothing. Why can't she give us children?" Baba Rudo stood firm. "Because it's evil, Rudo. My soul rejects it," she scoffed. "Then don't ever say you want a child again." But Baba Rudo had already turned away. That very night, he walked quietly to the local social services center and told the officer on duty everything. "There's a girl in my house," he said. "She needs to be somewhere safe. Please help her." The social worker listened, and the next day they arrived at the compound. Rudo glared from behind the door, arms folded, but she said nothing as the social worker gently took Namboka by the hand. Baba Rudo watched the child he nearly ruined walk away, and though his heart ached, he knew he had done the right thing. The house, once noisy with angry footsteps and cruel commands, grew quiet. Rudo grew restless, pacing at night, unable to sleep. Her guilt grew louder than her pride. Her husband barely spoke. The air between them turned cold and distant. Until one night as they ate a quiet meal, Rudo broke down. She wept openly at the table, saying, "I'm sorry, my husband. I was so desperate. I forgot what was right. I nearly destroyed a child just to fill a void." Baba Rudo reached across the table, taking her hand gently. "We've done wrong," he said. "But we are still here, and we can still choose a better path." They began to speak more honestly, peeling away years of silence. They talked about the pain of childlessness, the weight of shame, the pressure of tradition. They cried together and, slowly, they healed. And then, one quiet morning a few months later, a miracle happened. Rudo discovered she was pregnant. The child grew strong inside her, and when she finally gave birth, the house once filled with shadows rang with laughter and baby cries. They named their son Musa, which means grace, for that is what they believed had saved them. But their healing was not complete. Baba Rudo insisted they look for Namboka. She deserved to come back, not as a wife, not as a servant, but as our child. They found her through the social service center, thriving in a group home, learning, healing, smiling again. And when she saw them, she froze, unsure. But Rudo dropped to her knees and whispered, "Please forgive me. Come home. Come back not to serve us, but to be loved." Namboka, tears running down her cheeks, nodded slowly. She returned with them, and this time, the house felt different. Rudo treated her with kindness, with the love of a mother who had learned her lesson the hard way. She helped Namboka with her schoolwork, braided her hair, taught her how to cook, and cried every time she remembered what she had almost done. Baba Rudo worked harder than ever, and in time, the three of them plus baby Musa became a real family. One built not on fear or desperation, but on healing. And so, dear listener, in a world where people's pain sometimes blinds them to the pain they cause others, let this tale remind you, a child is not a solution to your sorrow. They are not a tool or a cure. Every child deserves safety, love, and freedom. The strength of a man is not in how loud he speaks, but how boldly he chooses what is right. The redemption of a woman lies not in her power, but in her humility to say, "I was wrong." And sometimes healing begins not in the moment of rescue, but in the choice to never harm again. The past cannot be erased, but the future can be rewritten with kindness, truth, and courage. May we all learn to choose better, love deeper, and protect those who depend on us most.